This video is going to go over what are the 5 best class setups to use after the Season 6 update inside Warzone 2. We're going to fly through this very quickly. All of these are SMG and AR combos for the most part. There is some LMGs and battle rifles in here as well, but there's no extra sniper rifle classes or anything like that, and that is just because mainly sniper rifles are not that powerful in the game at the moment. So starting off with the 2 new weapons, we do have the ISO 9mm as well as the TR56 Geist. Both of these guns are actually viable in the game. I'd say the Geist assault rifle is definitely a solid choice for long range, whereas the 9mm isn't really the best, but if you do want to try it out, then we do have a build for you right here. So we don't have this gun max leveled yet. We have been testing it in private matches, but this is the kind of build that we've came to. So the hip shot for the hip fire accuracy. We do have the XLB, which is the integrated suppressor barrel, which is the one that you want to be using for extra recoil control. We do have the demo fade, which is going to help you with the strafing speeds, and then the EXP sheer rear grip, which again is going to help with the movement speed as well, and then the 50 round drum mags. Then when we are moving on to the TR56 Geist assault rifle, now this is basically the exact same build as our previous video. 45 round mag, MOP optic, you can choose whatever optic you prefer. Ripper underbarrel, which is pretty much a must at this point. Obviously you know how to work the tuning at this point anyway. Again, this gun hasn't been max leveled yet. Zulu suppressor is the best suppressor for any gun in this game, basically for long range. And then the options you do have is between the Bridle Heavy and the Bridle 60. Now in the previous video we did mention the Bridle 60 does con your ADS less, which it definitely does, but I do think the extra bullet velocity that you do get with the Bridle Heavy does feel a lot better in game. So definitely I would recommend trying both out, see which one you prefer, but I do think you might sway more towards the Bridle Heavy with the way the game is playing at the moment. Next up we have what I believe to be most people's loadout, and that is going to be the MP7 with the TAC V. Now the TAC V got a buff with this update and it's extremely hard hitting at the moment. The only issue with it is it's a bit difficult to use, and I'll show you that in the firing range as well. But the build that we've came up with is this one right here. So the aim OP optic, you could choose no optic and get a bit extra control on the weapon as well, which is definitely a solid choice. So if you do not really care too much for optics, then if you use the iron sights on this weapon, we can put the OLE laser on there on our rear grip, which will help with the recoil a bit more. So that is kind of a trade-off you can make. We do have the 50 round drums, we do have high velocity, but we've tuned more towards recoil control. Recoil smoothness doesn't really do anything, keep that in mind. F-Tac Ripper underbarrel, again we are tuning more towards recoil control, and that's just because you do need it with this weapon. And then we are using the Zulu suppressor once again, and that is just because it is the best suppressor in the game. Now you can remove the suppressor and also put on something that's going to help a bit more recoil, like the LR8 or something else, but again that's going to come down to personal preference. I probably would recommend it with this gun, and that is just because it does, like I keep saying, have a high amount of recoil. But we are pairing this with a very easy close range weapon, and that is the MP7, and the build for the MP7 is basically the perfect build at the moment. So 50 round drum mags, you don't need the 60 for this gun. We are using the soldier grip for the better movement speed, so sprint to fire and aim down sight. We are using the demo RXT stock. Again, it's more for the movement speeds in general, so that is what we're mainly focusing on. Aim walking speed is very important. We are using the hip shot for the hip fire accuracy when you are getting in those close quarters engagements. Then we are using the Schlager barrel, which allows you to adjust that aim walking speed once again, so you can basically bump up the aim walking movement speed a little bit more, as well as the aim down sight speed, but it also gives you recoil control as the main pros. Quickly showing the TAC V in the firing range. As you can see here, it is a bit of a kick to start off with, but you can manage this weapon as long as you pull down correctly. Now in medium range, obviously you're going to be hitting your shots, but it's mainly in that super long range where we might be missing a couple of shots with this gun, but it does hit extremely hard, and you can have a couple of different options when it comes to trying to control the recoil of this gun a bit more with some of the attachments. Like I said, if you remove the optic or change the muzzle. Next up we have what was pretty much the meta loadout before this update, in my opinion, which is the ISO 45 along with the Cronin Squall. Now I do think the Cronin Squall isn't as good, obviously, because it did get nerfed, but it's still a solid choice. You can still use it and still definitely do pretty well with this gun at the moment. Until we figure out exactly what the new meta is, I think it's still a solid choice from the way it feels in game anyway. So we'll go and look at the build for this. Now I haven't max leveled this gun because it's glitched out for a while for some reason, but MOP optic, 50 round drum mags, F-Tac Ripper, Zulu suppressor, and the HR 6.8 barrel. This hasn't really changed, and the tuning for this is pretty straightforward as well if you have maxed it out, so keep that in mind. Obviously it will feel a little bit better than what you'll see in game with obviously the base attachments. Then we do have the ISO 45 as well, and with the ISO 45, this is basically the build pretty much everyone uses, I'm pretty sure, which is the EXP shear, which is going to help with sprint to fire and movement. And then we do use a demo fade again for that aim walking speed, very important for strafing speeds there. Hip shot, you can use some of the lasers that help with aim down sight speed if you really prefer that, but I do think the hip fire accuracy on an SMG is super important. 45 round drum mags, and then we are using the integrated suppressor barrel once again. Some people actually do use the PTX trainer as well. You can use either or. Both are solid choices. It just depends on whether you want to be suppressed or if you want to have extra movement speed. So both are good choices regardless, but I do think the integrated suppressor option is the best option. Next up, we have a very reliable loadout, and that is the Lockman sub with the Sakin MG38. The Sakin doesn't really get any nerfs or buffs when it comes to updates, so it kind of remains the same all the time, but it is a good TTK. It fires quick and it handles relatively well. Obviously it is a LMG though, so you do need to keep that in mind. And obviously the Lockman sub is basically everyone's favorite SMG for the most part, unless you have a preference for something else, but it's always good to go back to because it always outperforms in terms of TTK, handling, everything. It's a really good SMG. So when it comes to the Lockman build, not really much has changed here. So we've got the mobile stock, which is the best stock for this at the moment because it helps with the aim walking speed. We do use the 40 round mags. You can go for 50 if you want, but 40 is enough. We are using the lock shot again for the hip fire accuracy as always. We're using the shark fin underbarrel. You can choose whatever underbarrel you like. I'm just choosing this one because it gives you the least amount of cons, or you could choose an ammunition type. That will also help as well. For example, you could choose high velocity. And then we are using the AVR compensator, which is the best at controlling recoil, so just keep that in mind. If you are trying to control recoil on an SMG, the AVR compensator is the best choice here, and that is the way I would build the Lockman sub. Moving on to the Sakin now, the build for this, MOP optic once again, you can tune that whatever way you want. OLE laser, but you want to mainly focus on getting this more towards idle stability. And obviously we are bumping this one towards sprint to fire speeds because it is still important to try and make sure your gun gets down as quick as possible. Then we are using the Silver Series barrel, which is the best barrel for this. Again, we're mainly focusing on either recoil control or aim down sight speed. That's the kind of main ones here, so you can copy the tuning there for that one. Bruin Warrior underbarrel grip, and that is going to help with the idle stability and then recoil stabilization. And then lastly, the Zulu suppressor, which is what we use all the time now. Again, aim down sight speed and idle stability on that one. Last but not least, we've got an easy loadout to use, and that is the TAC56 along with the Vaznev. Now, the Vaznev is still a solid SMG. It's probably not the best choice at the moment, but it's still a good choice. And the TAC56, again, probably not the most powerful weapon, but definitely super easy to use. So if you are a beginner coming to Warzone, coming back to Warzone, wanting something easy to use, then obviously this is going to be something that you can try out. With the Vaznev, this is the build right here. So we're using the Orit Terzak stock, however you call that. The tuning is on screen just now, so you can copy that there. True Tac grip, again, this is going to help with the movement speeds. Again, the tuning is on screen, as you can see. 45 round mag. We are using the Corvus Pick beam, and again the tuning for this is on screen. Again, this is going to help with the hip fire accuracy. And then lastly, we are using the barrel here, which is the cast barrel, again aiming more for that aim walking speed and aim down sight speed. Getting into the TAC56, again, not much has changed when it comes to the build for this. So aim OP optic once again, 60 round mags, high velocity with the tuning that you see on screen just now. Again, more towards damage range and recoil control. Then we are using the F-Tac Ripper underbarrel once again for the control of the weapon, and then the Zulu suppressor once again, which again is going to help us with bullet velocity and sound suppression. But overall, we already know how easy the TAC56 is to use, so I don't really need to show you that. The Vaznev is also an easy SMG to use, and it also has really good strafing speeds as well. But if you enjoyed this video, don't forget to subscribe, and thank you very much for watching.